The real Matrix is not a computer simulation. It's not a movie, nor does it have anything to do with a red pill. When a movie is your total mental reference and understanding of what the Matrix is, you're not woke, nor are you a part of the resistance. You're just as mentally enslaved as everyone else. This video is being made for those who want to know what the real Matrix is. The real Matrix is not science fiction. It's constructed by a social science. Social science is one of the branches of science devoted to the study of human behaviors, specifically how people interact with each other, behave, develops as a culture, and moves forward as a society. It's used to shape and steer society in ways that serve the objectives of the ruling class, the ruling elites. This includes being used for controlling the minds of the masses. This social science has been thoroughly studied by them, gaining the ruling elites much knowledge on the subject. They've exploited that gained knowledge to mentally enslave millions of us. First, to subdue our critical thinking, they imposed the Bible upon us. Then they told us that it contained the true words of God that will empower and protect us. Then they used their knowledge of social sciences to create an elaborate prison for our minds. And the prison for the mind is the most difficult one to escape. Those of us who don't critically think, nor ever questions our perceptions of reality, never notices our mental chains. And this mental prison is so effective that millions of us now fight against our own people who tries to free our minds from it. Those who are ignorant think that its power is magic or something supernatural, but it's actually our mind that gives it its power over us. I never said that what I teach would be easy for all to comprehend. I only said that it would be the absolute truth. The truth that will go over the heads of many of our people. And it's just the way it is. Everyone won't understand it. Sometimes a fruit falls from a tree and rolls so far away from its roots that it's no longer part of the tree. The hard fall and long journey totally, profoundly changes the fruit. And there's nothing can be done to reconnect the fruit back to the roots of its tree. Even if a bee could explain to a fly why pollen is better than shit, the fly would not understand, because the fly doesn't have a mental reference of what honey is. Sadly, and to our own detriment, this is the case with millions of our people throughout the diaspora that have been stripped of our many hidden truths and have been indoctrinated with the white society's mental enslaving lies. Many have normalized those lies, and they've normalized the distortion of their minds, and there's nothing can be done to restore their minds to its true, original, authentic state. It is what it is for them. The real Matrix is a false perception of reality created by false information that have been indoctrinated into our minds since birth by the white society. Most people are totally clueless of the immense power held by the white societies through their monopoly over information. Those who controls information not only controls the minds of the masses, but also controls the perception of reality. That's godlike power. Because of that power, your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. It is a deception created for maintaining the system of white supremacy. This is all possible because people's perception of reality are shaped by the information that people receive. It does not actually matter if the information is true or not. The only thing that matters is that the people believe that the information is true. This is why social scientists says that perception is more important than reality when it comes for controlling people. This is because people literally function based upon their perceptions of what's true rather than what actually is true. No place is this more proven than when examining religions. Case, point, and proof. Millions of people believe that God created Adam and Eve. Okay, He created Adam, then he created Eve as from the rib of Adam as being a helpmate of Adam. This is believed by countless millions of people around the world. People literally function based upon that belief, and it has been used to assign all women to be inherently subordinate status within relationships with men. The women are always the second, the subordinate. However, it has been scientifically proven that the biblical story of Adam and Eve is totally untrue. We know it's untrue because according to a biblical expert, Adam and Eve lived between 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. The problem with these calculated numbers is that science has confirmed time and time again that people have existed on Earth long before the Adam and Eve timeline. In South Africa, scientists unearthed ancient bones belonging to at least 15 individuals. These bodies are estimated at being over 20,000 years old. There was also the remains of a female in Ethiopia that they've called Lucy. It's estimated to be over 1,000,000 years old. The fact is that the oldest human remains ever found was a woman. No woman has ever come from the rib of a man. Never happened. But every man has come from the womb of a woman. But instead of functioning based upon these noted facts, millions of people function based upon the fictional story of Adam and Eve, thus giving power to that story. I've just proven to you that people function based upon their perception of what's true instead of what's actually true. The greatest example of this is witnessed with the story of the Jews. The story of Jews being held captive in Africa's ancient Egypt. But here are the facts. There exists no evidence of Jews ever having been held captive in Africa's ancient Egypt. There is no evidence of a leader named Moses, no synagogue. There is no mentions of Jews or 10 plagues in the extensive history of Egypt. We have no clue, not even a single word about the Jews, neither on monumental inscriptions, on walls of a temple, nor on tomb inscriptions, on papyri. Nowhere. Israel is absent as a possible foe of Egypt, as a friend of Egypt, and as enslaved in Egypt. There is no evidence. If the story of Jews in Egypt was true, there would have been some evidence of them having assimilated into Egyptian culture. The Egyptians wrote extensively in their distinctive writings, and they practiced details, their paintings and murals on the tombs. However, none of these depictions, none depict any of the 10 plagues. The Egyptians left us no evidence of Jews ever being in Egypt. The Egyptian records have no mentions of anything that happened in Exodus. Furthermore, the myth of the Jewish of slaves being in Egypt has been disproven in the 1990s when they found graves of laborers. Egyptian archaeologists agreed and concluded that no way would they have been buried so honorably if they were slaves. It is now estimated that between 10 to 30,000 paid workers were responsible for building the pyramids of Africa's ancient Egypt. And radiocarbon date testings have scientifically confirmed that the pyramids were built during a time period when only Africans lived in ancient Egypt. However, contrary of all of these facts, millions of people around the world believe that enslaved Europeans built the pyramids of Africa's ancient Egypt. That myth is being taught within synagogues and institutions around the world. But it's totally untrue. This clearly demonstrates that people function based upon what is perceived as being true rather than what actually is true. Now that you've learned this fact, you are now ready to learn what the real matrix actually is. The real matrix is an enormous illusory truth effect, also known as illusionary truth effect, that has been grafted upon us and indoctrinated into our collective minds since birth through the white society's monopoly over information. A illusory truth effect is when the public have been made to believe that false information is true because of being constantly subjected to the false information. And then their thoughts and behaviors align with the false information. They then accurately perceive reality based upon the false information. This is what the white society has done. Because the white society controls all information that the world believes, they've exploited this fact by feeding false, white, exalting information to the masses, thus creating an illusionary truth that serves the system of white supremacy. The world is being inaccurately perceived through the distorted lens of the white society. The white society's greatest power is their ability to create false narratives that falsely exalt their racial group and then impose those narratives upon society and then have the masses function based upon those false narratives as if they're true. They've always done this. They've always created falsehoods that empowers their racial group. Lies that exalt their racial group by placing themselves at the top and at the center of everything. An example that proves this to be true is the fact that billions of people around the world believe the myth of a white God. It happened because the white society exploited its monopoly over the God narrative by creating the image of a white God and then imposed that image and ideology of a white God onto the world. That narrative places the white society at the top of all racial groups. Creating a white God gives the white population social capital over all non-whites. When the masses are made to believe that God is white, this conveys a subliminal message that whites are inherently closer to God and is therefore inherently superior than all other groups. They've spread lots of false information into the society that empowers their racial group in the same manner. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting lies that the public function based upon. These lies are created and sustained by Orwellian propaganda. Orwellian propaganda are societal conditions created and sustained by disinformation, misinformation, distortion of facts, denial of truth, and even the manipulation of the past to falsely exalt the white society. According to white social scientists, truth is not important. True power lies in only what's perceived as being true because people function based upon their perception of what's true rather than what actually is true. Therefore, perception is more important for controlling people and for steering a society towards a planned objective, an applied objective. The white society creates lies that empowers themselves. It is called Orwellian propaganda. It's what Marcus Garvey meant when he said that the white man's propaganda has made him the master, and everyone who comes in contact with the propaganda and accepts it becomes the white man's slave. The 1999 Matrix film was created to allow the white society to avoid the law of karma. The practice is called revelation of the method. There are hidden rules and principles within the warfare of domination that must be adhered to. The oppressors must make their oppressive tactics available to the oppressed. They therefore often embed them within movies and TV shows and books. They don't make the revelation appears easily recognizable. They do so only enough to be the threshold necessary to avoid the law of karma. They masquerade it to appear as being merely entertainment, as in the Matrix film. However, because the oppressive tactic have been made available when the oppressed do not act upon the knowledge, by default, they've given their oppressors permission to oppress and rule over them. It's a social contract that allows the oppressors to avoid the law of karma. The first Matrix film is clearly a revelation of the method that allows the white oppressors to avoid the law of karma for the long-term oppression of black people. Case, point, and proof. Within the Matrix film, Neo awakens to discover that the true humans were being mentally enslaved by soulless beings that masqueraded themselves as being humans. Moreover, that these soulless beings were the programmers of everything that the true humans believed. They perpetually kept the humans trapped within a false version of reality that allowed them to exploit them without resistance. Okay? I will now provide information proving that we Africans are the true humans that are being mentally enslaved, and that Caucasians are the soulless non-humans that programs everything that we believe. According to two studies published in the journal Nature that looked at the DNA fossil hidden in the modern human genome, Africans have been scientifically proven as being the only true homogeneous species. Africans' melanated skin and our hair type have been scientifically proven as being the direct result of Homo sapien DNA. So when they make us hate ourselves, they make us hate what's human about us. The oppressor's skin color and hair type has been proven to being the result of their Neanderthal DNA. These studies also revealed that Europeans retain Neanderthal DNA that affects their hair, their skin, their fertility, predisposition to certain diseases, and other possible characteristics. And the Darwinian evolutionary theory chart does not apply to we Africans. Unlike Caucasians and all other groups that evolved from primates, Africans have instead always been Homo sapiens. The actual scientific term for all other groups is actually Homo sapien sapien. The additional sapien refers to modern humans that evolved from primates. The Caucasians separate themselves from the Neanderthals, and they falsely place themselves at the top of we African Homo sapiens, claiming that they are the superior ones. And they explain away their physical difference by creating the false narrative that they turn white due to migrating to the colder climates of Europe, a form of cold weather albinism. However, it's been scientifically proven that Caucasians are not African albinos. That's never been a fact. Their white skin is a result of Neanderthal DNA. Okay? Now I will demonstrate that they are also the soulless beings. According to many scientists, the pineal gland located in the center of the brain is important not only because it produces melanin, but also because the pineal gland produces the human traits, characteristics, and behaviors associated with possessing a soul. This includes sympathy, compassion, empathy, and remorse. It's therefore regarded as the principal seat of the soul. Scientists have found that the pineal gland within Caucasians are over 80% calcified and therefore non-functioning. This literally means that 80% of what controls Caucasians' thoughts, decisions, behaviors, and in regards to the soul does not work. This scientific finding correlates with their behavior demonstrated throughout history, because throughout history, the Caucasians have demonstrated an almost total disregard for the human lives of other racial groups. Their subjugation, murder, exploitation of all other races is unparalleled. There has never been a time in human history where the oppressors have not either exploited millions or have either contributed to the suffering of millions. This is still the truth. They've killed, pillaged, and raped more people throughout history than any other group has done so. This isn't hate speaking. This is the truth. And quiet as it's kept and underreported, most violent crimes today are still in fact committed by Caucasians. Because they control the flow of information, They've kept this fact away from the masses. This is not hate speech. When you look at the facts, you can legitimately ask the question, does the oppressors actually have souls? Or do they merely impersonate the behaviors of empathy and sympathy? Now I've just demonstrated to you the reality. Now you know what the real matrix is. One love and peace.